Joining LinkedIn can be very intimidating. For a lot of people, it's like combining the first day of school, the first day at a new job, with your first karaoke, all rolled into one. It feels like there are so many ways you can put your foot in it. So what's an entrepreneur to do? How do you take your first steps into LinkedIn? And then once you've taken those first steps, how do you build on that and start using the platform like a pro? Well, this week my guest is Louise Brogan, one of the UK's leading LinkedIn trainers, and she's going to put your mind at ease and open your eyes to some hidden potential. Hi there and welcome back to Amplify, the Digital Marketing Entrepreneurs podcast. I'm Bob Gentle, and every Monday I'm joined by amazing people who share what makes their business work. If you're new to the show, then take a second right now to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes, and you can dig into some older ones when you're done with this one. Don't forget to join our Facebook community. Just visit amplifyme.fm/insiders and you'll be taken right there. Also, don't forget to visit my YouTube channel. It's quite new, but there's lots of content there now. And yeah, that would make my day. Drop me a comment and let me know why you're there, that you came through the podcast, and I will love you forever. So, welcome along and let's meet Louise. So this week I'm delighted to welcome Louise Brogan to the show. Louise has been on the show before quite a long time ago now, and I think your business has probably changed quite a lot, which is why you're back. So, Louise, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are, and the kind of work you do now.
Hi, Bob. It's lovely to be back on your podcast again. I follow you online, and I'm always very interested to see what you're doing in your business alongside what I'm doing in my business. And at the moment, things are going well. I'm completely focused down on helping people with LinkedIn in my business at the minute, and really enjoying it. Really love doing it.
I think you're in Northern Ireland as well. It's good to help people locate your accent, because a lot of my listeners are actually further afield where they maybe can't quite pinpoint the accents.
Yes, so they might think I'm Scottish as well then in that case. But yes, I live just outside Belfast in Northern Ireland.
So in order for me to come and visit you, I have to get on a boat.
Yes, for now, although some politicians seem to think that one day they'll build a bridge, but I don't think that's a very good idea.
No. So last time we spoke, your business was really orientated around helping small business owners with social media in general. Mm-hmm. But I had noticed that you'd really sort of dialed into LinkedIn in a big way. What happened there?
A few things actually happened. As with everything in life, it's not just one thing that happens that makes you change direction. I had been working, so I was doing Facebook, Instagram, a little bit of Twitter, but people didn't seem to be as bothered about learning about Twitter, and LinkedIn, and mainly Facebook and Instagram, to be honest, Bob, and that's what people seemed most interested in. And I got involved with an organisation called Enterprise Nation, and they introduced me to Facebook, and I became one of Facebook's accredited trainers in the UK under a programme called She Means Business. And part of the remit of that was organising networking events for women in business in your local area, and my local area was all of Northern Ireland. So it was really a brilliant opportunity, because I was the only accredited trainer for Facebook and Instagram in the whole of, I think possibly the island of Ireland. And I ran these networking groups, and I helped people with their Facebook and Instagram. But I started to notice whenever I spent time on LinkedIn, I got business a lot quicker. And I got businesses who were more prepared to invest in my services, let's put it that way, than potentially the people I was meeting at these the networking events that I was running on behalf of Facebook. People only had to pay £5 to come to them, and there was no financial incentive for me to do it. And it was brilliant. I got trained by Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff, and it was a brilliant opportunity. But I think as well, so there's the whole kind of moving towards thinking, actually, on LinkedIn, it seems to be people are there. It's easier to win business on LinkedIn, basically, because people are there because they're thinking about business. But also the level of investment that the people that you meet on LinkedIn who will invest in your products or services seems to be a little bit higher. So I also was then working with a coach, an American coach, and it was actually her suggestion, and she said, why, rather than being a generalist in social media, I think that you have potential here to specialize, and I think LinkedIn could be the way to go. So it took me about a year to agree with this, because I like to work through things in my own time, and but also at that stage I probably knew as much about using LinkedIn as most social media managers and trainers. You know enough to be able to work with your clients, but when you focus on one platform and you spend all your time researching and learning and training on that platform, it actually means that you become far more specialized, and people really like it because they're coming to you because they know you're the LinkedIn expert. I also then when I started drilling down to LinkedIn, a couple of different things happened. I changed my podcast to focus on LinkedIn, and I started getting speaking opportunities. So towards the end of last year, and it's really unfortunate there's no speaking opportunities now in 2020 at this point in time. But towards the end of last year, I was invited I pitched myself. I'm not shy about pitching for things. And I spoke at 2 conferences in and around London, and I was invited to speak at I was invited to speak at 2 conferences in America, but I went to speak at a conference in California about LinkedIn in November. And if I had still been not specializing, if I'd still been teaching all of social media, that would never have happened. So I think by me choosing to niche down onto the one platform, it's been brilliant for my business, and it's been brilliant for recognition of having that specialist knowledge.
I think one thing that I'm curious about is, because you had a fairly strong platform across lots of different channels, so you have a good audience on Facebook, a good Instagram audience, a relatively good, you have a very good Twitter audience, if I remember rightly. How did that translate? I guess my question really is, LinkedIn is often a very noisy place, and was it a LinkedIn audience that was responding, or was it other audience responding with an interest in LinkedIn? Does that question make sense?
Yes, it makes complete sense. And this is interesting because my business, I sometimes feel like I've got 2 audiences. So I have the entrepreneurial audience, and I have the corporate audience. And on LinkedIn, I'm reaching both of those audiences. Now, I teach people how... there are people who teach LinkedIn in order to get a job. So there's career coaching and training around LinkedIn. That's not what I do. I teach business owners, entrepreneurs, and people who want to be known for their expertise. So that can be someone who's in a professional career, or it can be a small business owner, and how to use LinkedIn to raise their visibility, whether that's because they want to become known as an expert or a speaker, or if they want to win business on LinkedIn. But my other audience, a lot of my audience are people who I am convincing them on my other platforms why they should be using LinkedIn. So the content that I'm sharing on LinkedIn is very much around here's how to use this particular feature on LinkedIn. Here's why you should consider writing articles. Whereas on Instagram, I might be saying, did you know that on LinkedIn this happens? So you're almost educating the people who are on the other platforms as to why they should go and check out LinkedIn, which then means my work is really interesting because I am working with people at all different levels, which I love.
So there's a few things that come out of that. I think with any social network, it is, in simple terms, a social network. And people are there for lots of different reasons. People have lots of different goals at different times of life. And yeah, it makes sense that somebody does career training. And the other obvious aspect is building your personal brand, your authority on a channel.
Yes.
What are the most common barriers that you find people have to that? Is it mindset? Is it technology? where do you find people struggle the most?
Well, it's a combination, actually. The most common questions I hear in resistance to LinkedIn are fear. I just don't know what to say. I'm afraid to write something because I don't know what people are going to say about it. Or fear that they don't actually know how to use it. Or just not being up to date with how LinkedIn works these days and thinking it's just where you put your career history or your CV, your resume, and not really understanding. Like the people, when I work with clients, Bob, overarching response is, well, I had no idea you could do that on LinkedIn, or I had no idea that it was going to be that I was going to get businesses reaching out to me so quickly. So an example is, and this lady is the perfect example of not the kind of person you think would get business on LinkedIn. So I run free 5-day challenges a couple of times a year on LinkedIn that people sign up for. And I did one recently for people working in the tourism industry. And one of the ladies who signed up for it runs a sustainable ecotourism business in the Maldives. And she was kind of persuaded to do this 5-day challenge by the lady who asked me to run it for her clients. And at the end of it, she was just blown away by all the things she didn't know you could do on LinkedIn. She then signed up to get a LinkedIn profile review with me, which is one of the services I offer. And within 2 days, she contacted me to say that since she had updated her profile and started reaching out to people, 2 tour operators had reached out to her who hadn't heard of her before to see if they could talk to her about bringing her on board with their holidays they run to the Maldives.
Yeah, I mean, that says a lot. I mean, it sounds like money in the bank for a very small investment of time.
Yes.
You couldn't really get that anywhere else.
Exactly. The other thing about LinkedIn is, and I suppose this is another thing that I liked about it, there's so much noise on Facebook for businesses at the moment, and it'll probably just get more noisy. You put a post on Facebook, and unless you're getting immediate attention on it, it's only probably got a shelf life of a couple of hours. If you put a post on LinkedIn and people start to comment on it, or you get engagement on it, it has a shelf life of about 5 to 6 days. So huge difference in the potential for people to see what you're doing over on LinkedIn.
I think one of the things that kind of annoys me with LinkedIn, and I'm going to circle back, and it's not really an issue, but with Instagram, I'm very much in control of what I consume. With Facebook, again, I'm kind of in control of what I consume. This sort of bubble phenomenon of you simply get reflected back what you're actually interested in. You could say it works very well on those platforms, but the other side of it is you're insulated from an awful lot of things that are probably valuable for you to know about. With LinkedIn, that doesn't work so well. And the effect on me is when I open my LinkedIn feed, what I would describe as my Hulk rage is triggered consistently. And I'm a very calm person. But
you are a very calm person. I'm surprised.
Every time I open LinkedIn, I just go, oh my God.
And what are you seeing, Bob?
The thing is, this is probably part of the problem. I've been on LinkedIn probably longer than any other platform, and I have a massive LinkedIn network. And so it's I'm going to have to click the explicit button when I publish this podcast, but it's the volume of shit posting. It's posting just to be seen, to be posting.
Yeah.
And I think one of the benefits of Facebook and Instagram is they're quite careful about what they show you in order to keep you on the platform. And LinkedIn almost is the opposite. But at the same time, the benefit of that is when you do post something, you know that algorithm is actually working in your favor, because LinkedIn definitely rewards good content, the sort of the posting to be seen to be posting type of content.
Yeah.
But when you're working with people, what kind of advice are you giving them about what to post? Because the posting to be seen to be posting, it's not really helping anyone.
No, it's not helping anyone. It's funny. I'm doing a 3-part workshop this week with 15 people, which I'm loving. And we did profiles on day 1 and content on it's day 2, but it's across 5 days. On day 2, and I showed the class an example of exactly what you're talking about. People are going on and creating and they're really putting thought into how they're structuring their posts, but they're not really saying anything that makes you even know what they do in their business. And there's loads of activity on LinkedIn that other people are doing that I don't teach and I don't really like. And one of those things is being inside a pod where you post this elaborate thought piece about well, they normally have like a moral at the end of them or something, but that's not how I post. I'll tell you how I post in a minute. But what these people do is then they have their little posse who come and all leave comments underneath it. So then I get shown that post because it's supposedly popular and engaging, and they annoy me and I don't want to see them. So I actually unfollow people who do that. So they're still in my network, but I'm not seeing their posts. But what I teach my clients to do is to write something that gives value to your network or your audience. So, for example, if you were in my network, I'll be sharing things that you can do on LinkedIn that can help you to build an authentic or genuine network around you. Or I might literally say, have you seen this new feature? Here's 3 things you can do with it, and here's a couple of ways you should avoid using them. So giving your audience, they've connected with you for a reason, hopefully, not just to build up to their 30,000 connections. And so why did they connect with you in the first place? So as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, whatever product or service you have, use your LinkedIn, the opportunity to post on LinkedIn to teach your audience in a way that gives them value, that they're interested in what it is that you're saying, rather than don't broadcast at people. But also another way that really works for me in posting is asking people's opinions about stuff. And I've done this successfully for my podcast quite a few times, Bob. So my podcast is about LinkedIn, and I bring people on and we have conversations about their, kind of like you and I are doing now, about their businesses, and we pull in little snippets about how they're using LinkedIn. But then the solo episodes, I will maybe walk through how to build a good network on LinkedIn, or how to use the featured section on LinkedIn. And sometimes I did a really popular one about how to get over the fear of posting on LinkedIn. And I just asked my network, I said, I'm doing this podcast. Here are the reasons that people give me why they're kind of shy or scared to post on LinkedIn. And I'd love to hear what you guys think. And then people, I got like 50 or 60 comments in response. And I use that content. So I'm not doing that to build engagement. I actually do then take it and use it and refer to those people in the podcast. So yeah, I don't really like same as you, I don't like these posting for the sake of it. I don't think you're doing yourself any favors, and there's not really a strategy behind it either. Don't spend all your time on LinkedIn unless it's actually bringing you business, the activity that you've got on there.
Yeah, something I work with my clients on is not hyper-focusing on the individual post, but what's the tapestry that post is creating over time. Mm-hmm. And when you are posting for the sake of posting, that tapestry is just noise. And it's not really educating or informing or taking anybody on a journey. Yeah. So it is important to have a little bit of content strategy, build in some storytelling.
Definitely.
And it'll work really well. Now, you mentioned the featured section.
Mm-hmm.
I have not heard of this. So what gives?
So it used to be when you did your LinkedIn profile, and you've got your profile, your photograph, your headline, and I'm literally going down the screen. and you've got your about summary. And in the about summary, you used to be able to add in links to videos or blog posts, or you could upload your speaker reel in there as literally a little file that sat at the about summary. And what LinkedIn have done, a lot of people didn't even know they could do that. I don't know if you knew you could do that.
I did, but because I have been on courses, but the featured thing is new.
Yes, so what they've done instead now is they've taken that out of the about summary sections. You can't do that anymore. And instead they've put in a featured section below your about summary. And you can add in, so there's 4 things. You can add in links to posts that you've done on LinkedIn, links to articles you've done on LinkedIn. Then you can upload media, whether that's documents or videos, or the 4th thing is you can add links to external websites. So I actually have in mine, I've written 3 articles now for Social Media Examiner, so they are linked. They're in my featured section, and I've got a link to my YouTube videos on LinkedIn, and I have a couple of links to articles I've written on LinkedIn. So, and also the workshop I was doing this week, I had a link to it as well. So I created an event on LinkedIn, and I took the event and put it in my featured section. And why it's good, Bob, is because when you look at somebody's profile, it's quite a big space, and it's the color, it's the graphic jumps out at you when you're looking at somebody's profile, because the graph, it's not like a list of features, not like a text list. It's literally like a scrolling window of graphics that link to the things you want to feature.
I've got it in front of me just now, and I'm going to go and play with this later.
Awesome.
It's really valuable.
Feel free to feature one of my articles.
Well, I will. And I have other questions, but they're for later. Anybody listening, one of the benefits of the podcast is I can ask my specific questions later on. There's another thing you mentioned. You mentioned pods.
Yes.
And that's fine. Again, I agree. I don't like that kind of behavior, and it sticks out a mile. And actually, one of the things you mentioned about unfollowing people is probably a solution to my rage.
That's what I was thinking, yes.
So I will probably engage in that.
Yeah.
But something that I am seeing a lot, and I'm seeing it also trained, is that if you want engagement on your post, one thing you can do is tag a ton of people that have big networks in the hope that they will then come and engage in your content. And much like pods, although we look at it and we think, well, this is fairly bad behavior, you probably shouldn't be doing this. Mm-hmm. Annoyingly, it works.
Yes.
What's your philosophy on tagging people like this?
Okay, so you went halfway there, because there's another reason people do it too.
Okay.
And I'm really against it. But first of all, if you write a post and you tag 10 people, people have done it and they've tagged like 20 people, and somebody who has a large network, it's not the person who has the network that you are trying to get the attention of. You are trying to get the attention of the people in that person's network. So it is annoying, and people can, if someone's doing that to you, you can untag yourself from that post. The 3 little dots on every post is just like a wealth of things you can do with them, and one of the things is you can untag yourself in that post. I don't like it. I think you should only tag somebody in your post if it's relevant to them. I'm trying to think. There's people who tag me locally here in Northern Ireland, and it does bug me. And then the next thing that happens is you get notified every time someone comments on that post, which you could turn off as well, of course. I do find it quite irritating. I think your content should stand on its own 2 feet, and I would rather have genuine engagement on my posts from the people who are following me because they're interested in what I'm having to say. But you can see why people do it too, Bob, because it does put you out in front of new people and new audiences, and maybe it's something LinkedIn needs to really consider.
I think so. I mean, I know on Instagram it's just considered spam, and you can actively report accounts for this. On LinkedIn, I think it's socially much more awkward, because you can untag yourself, but then that gets spotted very quickly. And I've been asked, why did you untag yourself? And I had to explain, because for the next 5 weeks, my notifications will become meaningless.
Yes.
But yeah, let's not go any further down there. I was just curious to know what your perspective on that was. Am I missing something? Should I be doing it? But no, I don't think so.
No.
So for new people coming to LinkedIn, what are the most common fears they have?
People think that other people are going to judge them on what they're saying because it is more of a professional network. And you do have to, it is not Facebook, and you do have to behave professionally. But what I would say is, if you are going, so say it's, we're all able to go to networking events in person, and you've been invited to a business networking event in your local town hall this Friday morning. Just think of LinkedIn as exactly the same. So go along to LinkedIn and introduce yourself and start connecting with people. If the thought of putting a post on LinkedIn terrifies you, then start by commenting on other people's posts in your network. You have got something to say, and don't, if you are, for example, you're an Instagram trainer and you're posting stuff on Instagram, don't think, oh, flip, the other Instagram trainers are going to see this and laugh at me, or they're going to criticize me or whatever, because you're not actually writing it for those people. You're writing it for your potential customers and clients. And if you can get your head wrapped around that way, then really what you're doing is you're helping people by sharing stuff that is of value to them and that they're interested in. But you've got to start building up your network. So I run a group program, and when we first started, I had my beta group last November, and one of the members of the beta group was posting stuff and then coming to me and saying, well, look, this is not working, Louise. And I said, well, let's go and look. Let's pull up your screen and let's have a look at it. And they only had like 25 or 30 people in their network. So you're not going to get engagement if you've only got a network of 25 to 30 people. So you do need to start connecting with people and building up that network, and start with the people that you know. So start with the local business people that you know. Start with me and Bob, and see when Bob posts stuff about his podcast and you're a podcast listener, see who else is commenting underneath it, and then send them a connection request and say, oh, I see we both listen to Bob's podcast, and just build it up steadily, and then provide value to the network, and you will start to get engagement. But it's like everything, Bob, you have to work at it too.
How funny would it be if both of my podcast listeners actually connected with each other? It'd be hilarious.
And tagged you and me in every post from now until the end of time.
So I have another question about LinkedIn, and that's really to do with, well, I have two actually. One is groups and the other one's business pages.
Yes.
So LinkedIn groups are potentially a fantastic idea. Yeah. But they are the land of tumbleweed a lot of the time.
They are.
What is your experience around, is there a way to make them work?
Bob, I am in groups. They are either, as you say, a tumbleweed area, or they're so full of spam that you remove yourself really quickly from them. I don't go near them. It's interesting at the moment, there's local business networks and university networks actually who are trying to use groups and inviting me into them. But because nobody's really posting in them or using them, you don't get shown the content that's in them, then you forget that you're even in a group. So groups are not really worth your time at the moment.
That was what I thought, but I wasn't sure if I was missing something, because I think if you look at why people are on LinkedIn, it's because they want to do some business networking.
Yeah.
But nobody goes to business networking events for leisure. They're there to do the work. So people aren't hanging out on LinkedIn the way they might on Facebook.
No.
And when people are on Facebook for their downtime, that's when they'll typically engage in that kind of room style behavior.
But there's also, LinkedIn Live, which is the live video aspect of LinkedIn that not everybody has and not everyone can get. and I'm currently waiting to hear. I think I'm about to get it, but I'm waiting to hear. But, you know, if you were able to, so at my LinkedIn program, our community group is on Facebook, which is so bizarre. But if I could create a group on LinkedIn and I could go live into that group, you know, there's just other functionality that needs to be added to them to make them work for somebody who leads a community or a business, in my opinion.
Yeah. It does just seem like a separate timeline.
Yeah.
So that if somebody listening to that might think, wow, a different timeline. That sounds a bit weird. Anyway, you mentioned Facebook Live. Now, I've applied for Facebook Live like 5 times.
LinkedIn Live,
yes. What is their rollout? I mean, you're probably a bit closer to LinkedIn than I am. What's their rollout program looking like?
Oh, so it's really hard. I applied. So I'll tell you my LinkedIn Live story, and I haven't got it yet, but I've kind of been given a nod that I should be getting notification of it. I applied twice and heard nothing. I think it's what you write in your application that makes the difference. So one of their rules is to do LinkedIn Live, you're not allowed to talk about LinkedIn. It's like Fight Club.
Right.
And, you know, my business is teaching people about LinkedIn. So I'm so determined to get it because, you know, how can you teach people about LinkedIn if you haven't got all the functionality? And by the by, I haven't got LinkedIn polls yet, which is driving me demented, which is a new feature being rolled out this week across the UK, it seems. But anyway, so LinkedIn Live, they seem to have a huge backlog of people who've applied for it. You have to show a link to a previous live you've done on a different platform. They want you to be able to stream for at least 10 minutes. So they don't want, you know, Facebook Live and Instagram, going live on Instagram stories, it's all like a 1 minute, 90 seconds, 2 minutes thing. Whereas LinkedIn want to do something different. So my last application that I submitted, which is looking like it's getting a green light, I said I was going to do a regular weekly interview show on LinkedIn. And I think that maybe is what's tipping the balance.
I think I have also filled in the application and I do want to do a regular weekly show there. But I think possibly what's holding me back is I don't have any published lives. They're all...
Oh, you'll not get it then, Bob.
Yeah, maybe need to fix that and play the game.
Go and do a Facebook Live on your Facebook page.
Yeah. Okay. Next question was business pages.
Mm-hmm.
And it also, alongside that, there's the whole question of LinkedIn articles. And as somebody who does regularly create content, if I, for example, have a blog post, that blog post isn't going on LinkedIn as an article. Am I missing a trick there?
Yes.
Okay. What should be happening with LinkedIn articles?
Okay.
Well, me like anybody else, treat me as anybody who's regularly writing blog posts.
Okay.
Or anything like that.
I think so. If you think of your posts on LinkedIn as conversation starters, so you're starting a conversation with your audience about something, think of your article as a longer form piece of content where you are literally telling a story or explaining something to your audience. It's written in a way that you break it up with images and links and text. It's not a big block of text. Now that you've got the featured section, it's even better because you can feature your articles in there. I think it's good for SEO on your profile. I think it's good for credibility because your posts that if you write a post about, let's see, why people should sign up for in-person networking group, like I know you have, Bob, and the benefits of those. If you write a post about that in 6 months' time, we're not going to see it. But if you've written, say you write 6 articles a year, I'm much more likely to see that article that you've written. And also, if you write it in an evergreen way, you can keep referring, and I do this all the time, keep referring back to it. So there's one that I wrote about how to write your LinkedIn profile. And every now and again, I just go and grab that article and share it into my newsfeed and start another conversation about, when's the last time you updated your profile, or what are the key things you need in your profile. And the whole article about profiles is there, and people refer to it, and people engage with that content. So it's almost like, if you have a WordPress blog, it talks about having cornerstone content. I think it's a similar scenario for me.
And what's LinkedIn's perspective on articles? Do they favor articles over posts in any meaningful way?
No.
Okay. That was kind of what I thought. So, but from a thought leadership authority perspective,
yes,
they're probably working quite well.
I think so.
So another thing a lot of people are looking at LinkedIn for is as a lead generation platform. And I think, you can get lucky in terms of you post something about what you do and somebody comes along and says, I really want that. But if we were to look at digital marketing in a broader context, and in the sort of taking the sort of funnel methodology into it, if we were, for example, driving traffic to our website, we would at that point offer some kind of content upgrade. So if you like this article, here's a PDF worksheet on how you can go a bit deeper, or a step-by-step or a checklist or something like that.
Yeah.
Is there a way that you can emulate that kind of workflow within LinkedIn?
So LinkedIn lead generation, for me, it all happens inside the messaging box, the inbox on LinkedIn. And I get a lot. That's where I get all my client inquiries from LinkedIn. They rarely come through email. I then send them to email because that's, get people off social media and into your email so you can have a proper chat. But you're raising your visibility by your actions on LinkedIn, and you just say, if you want to get in touch, send me a message or something like that. I do have, like I mentioned earlier, I mentioned the 5-day challenge. So when I'm running that, I will share a video onto LinkedIn, letting people know that it's coming up, and put the link below for them to sign up, and they absolutely do that. And I would have a call to action at the bottom of my articles as well, if they wanted to get a free download or something like that there as well. But it tends to be that they reach out in Messenger and say things like, I've been following you for a while and I'd like to know more about how to work with you. Or basically that's the gist of it. Or this is where, going back to having my 2 different client bases as well, a couple of people contacted me during COVID-19 and said, Louise, we've been following you and we really like what you're doing, and we'd like to bring you in to train with our team once we're all back in the office. Interestingly, Bob, in Northern Ireland, there's a resistance to me training people's teams online. But anyway, that's by the by. So there's building up those connections and contacts, but it all happens inside Messenger on LinkedIn for me.
Again, one point of curiosity for me there is, if you were to have 2 posts side by side, and one was simply, here's the information I've just been talking about, and that's it. And then there was another post where, here's the information I've just been talking about, and if you want to get in touch, feel free to message me. Would you actually expect to see a difference when you have that overt invitation to take things further?
Well, actually, how I would write my post is normally, I invite people to tell me what they think of what I've just said. So I would never end a post with, here's the information and that's it. I always, the way I write my posts is to get people to start having conversations below. But yes, if you directly invite someone to reach out to you, yes, they're more likely to do it. But I think with the activity that I've had on LinkedIn, and there's other people do it completely differently, it is very much inbound marketing. They come to me.
I think what I was getting at there was that you have some form of call to action over no call to action. I think often there's a reticence to, what happens if I make that sort of offer to continue the conversation and then nothing happens?
Well, okay, so if someone seems interested in what you're saying, and they're in your network, I would send them a message and say, is there anything else you'd like to know about that? Or is there something I can help you with on that? Or, absolutely say, if you want to jump on a call, here's my calendar. If they've already expressed interest in what it is you're saying. Some people will write an article or a post and then they send it to you in your messenger and say, that I don't do that. if you've liked this article, then get in touch with me. I don't do that kind of stuff.
Well, certainly I can see why you went deep into LinkedIn, because I think of all the platforms, LinkedIn is the one where I see people get anxious the most and the stakes feel like they're the highest, because Instagram, Facebook, a lot of people put them in the fun box, whereas LinkedIn is, if I want to grow my business, if I'm serious about my business, then I need to properly tackle LinkedIn. And oh my God, it's scary. So I think and clearly you know your stuff. So I can see why that's working for you.
Thanks.
Where do you want to go with it? Because obviously it's a couple of years now you've been building this up. It's clearly got some momentum now, but you're not somebody that hangs around.
No. So where do I want to go with this? So I have started building up a group of people. So I love teaching people, whether it's in person or online. And I've started to build up a group of people. I'm calling them my LinkedIn Learners. So LinkedIn Learners Lab is the name of the group. And I'd like to build that up. But I love speaking. I love speaking on a stage. And I'd like to do more of that, and I'd like to do more paid speaking. I was also, before lockdown, I was starting to build up a lot of corporate contacts and a lot of corporate workshops, and it's well paid, Bob, that kind of work. And I'd be very happy to build my business on working with my small business owners and the one-to-ones and the group program, and then going out and doing corporate workshops and doing speaking gigs. I mean, I'd be very happy. I think it's really funny because from the last time I was on here, I don't know if I mentioned, I think my sister's a teacher, and I think really I could very easily have been a teacher. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I can see that. And you're also going to be running a masterclass for my community, which they're all really looking forward to.
Yes, me too.
So Louise, again, I'm looking at the time thinking, oh my God, we've really been talking for a while now. So we should probably bring things to a close. And I need to ask you one question.
Yes.
That I am getting really good at remembering to ask everyone now. What's one thing that you do now that you wish you'd started 5 years ago?
Oh my goodness. Well, 5 years ago I was 40. So in terms of my personal life, I wish I'd started running. But gosh, 5 years ago, when was that, Bob? Like 2015? I started the business around 2013. So
I guess really, what's one thing that's really working for you now that you wish you'd
niching down and actually getting up and out and speaking in front of people. So when those 3 conferences I talked about at the end of last year, when I speak in front of a audience at a conference, I get clients straight away. And it's a really nice way to meet people and for people to figure out if they want to work with me. And I wish that I had started doing more of that and been brave enough to do that. I mean, it's hard when you're starting out and standing up in front of an audience, whereas now I absolutely love it. Like I had 2 conferences in Belfast last year that I co-ran with a colleague here, and I think 2021 I'm going to have to do one on my own. So you're very welcome to come join us, Bob.
I would love to. Hopefully when we're allowed out to play soon.
Yes, fingers crossed.
So Louise, if people want to connect with you, how would you like them to do that?
Well, I would love for them to come and connect with me on LinkedIn and to send me a personalised connection, which means adding a note and telling me that they listen to the podcast. And also I have a free download for your audience if they would like it. It's a LinkedIn profile checklist, and they can get that at socialbni.com/LinkedIn freebie.
And anybody listening thinking you know the LinkedIn profile, think again, because there's actually a lot more to it than you would imagine.
Oh, 100%.
And LinkedIn cares.
Yeah.
Well, Louise, thank you very much. You've been very generous with your time and with your knowledge. I'm so grateful you came on again. And yeah, I can't wait to see you again. Excellent.
You too, Bob. It's been really lovely. Thanks so much for having me on.
Digital marketing is all about people. It's all about people and relationships. Spending time building your profile on LinkedIn in a way which adds true value to others will add value to you. What goes around comes around. So if posting garbage is your thing, expect garbage in return. Invest in an attitude of genuine service and create great content and network well, and expect to see some great results. Before I go, just a quick reminder to subscribe, and if you haven't already, to join our Facebook group. You'll find a link in the show notes, or just head to amplifyme.fm/insiders. I would love you to connect with me on social media. Follow me wherever you hang out at Bob Gentle, and if you do, let me know so I can follow you back. If you enjoyed the show, then I would love for you to review it on iTunes. It means a lot to me, and it's the best way to help me reach more subscribers. My name's Bob Gentle. Thanks again to Louise for giving us her time this week, and to you for listening. See you next week.